What are we saying, Bulletproof Ballers? We are so back. We are so back. We have been out in Vanuatu. That podcast you will have seen last week. This podcast is now getting uploaded now, a week later than I am actually recording this right now. It's good to see everyone. We're back. We're going to be doing these every single week now. You can hold us to that. If we don't, I will shut down my Instagram. Okay, cool. Today, what we really want to run through is our system and our biggest pillars. We call them the three main pillars, but the biggest reason that we are different to the normal training systems. And yeah, I mean, Kadeem, say hi to the people.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. We're freaking rolling, right? It's now about really pushing this out there. Like we've had a lot of experience with people going through these pillars already and getting amazing results. But it's like we've now also created the course, right, for our clients to actually understand this more in depth. And I feel like really everyone should be knowing that more in depth. Every footballer should be knowing that. And yeah, let's get that shared today.
That's what I'm saying. So three main pillars. We'll go through every single one, and we'll do it one at a time, and we'll save the goods till the end. But first one is when we look at strength and how we actually look at strength different to the normal physios or the normal people trying to rebuild after some kind of injury, whatever it is, right? And we look at actually trying to recreate a joint dominant athlete, right? So we believe that God created us in a certain way. You can believe whether that's natural selection, you can believe whatever you want to believe. But I believe that as kids, like if you go around the kids, they're jumping off stuff, they're getting into all different positions, they have no worries of their knees, their ankles, their hips. And you think about like children, you think about health, youth, like no stiffness, like being able to be mobile. You think of old people, you think of stiff, old, like can't really move. So we want to be able to create that youth, and the way that we want to do that is through joint dominance. So if you look at a child, they can just jump off stuff that's like 2 times their body height and just be chilling. But their muscles aren't like gigantic, right? So where does that come from? Well, in our opinion, that comes from the joint and actually being able to absorb the forces. If we look at how we actually have forces placed on the connective tissue, it's through one, our own muscles, so how much force we can produce through ourselves, and then two, outside forces, so something like a depth drop off a high thing that's going to then put force on the connective tissue. So then just focusing on building muscle when trying to return from an injury, this just do knee as an example because that's always on my mind. If you just build your quad, build your quad, build your quad, or build your hips, or build whatever, yeah, that's going to help you with some protection. Like we have seen the research, like bigger quads equals bigger knee, like healthier knees and stuff like that. But it means you're going to be able to produce more force. And then when you produce more force, your knee then has to handle that. And if you haven't built the joint itself, which we know that cyclic tension of shallow knee angles activates living cells in the ACL and helps it to heal. We know that cyclic tension in deep knee angle activates living cells within the cartilage and helps it to heal. We know that the water cells around the meniscus get activated and can actually help that to rebuild and to be more protected as well through training, right? So yeah, bit of a ramble, but can anyone get on that?
Exciting. It's exciting new research as well, right? Because for so long, people literally have thought, okay, you can't go into these even shallow knee angles, knee over toe is dangerous, and let alone like deep knee over toe angles, right? When we look further back, some of the craziest longevity cases, right? George Hackenschmidt, crazy knee over toe ability, right? And that joint dominance and gives him this childlike ability to jump over chairs at age 70. And when Ben Patrick first mentioned this, I'm like, wow, that's crazy, right? And honestly, with the joint dominance as well, the way I like to think about it specifically in football as well, and also talking about okay, what makes us different is a really like famous or like well used strength test to that people are doing after, for example, ACL reconstruction, right? 9 months post op, whatever, maybe 6 months already. They're doing the isokinetic machine, okay, and that's basically a leg extension. Obviously, you have the same amount of strength, the strength curve is different, all that stuff, but it's still in that position of a leg extension. We know that's really muscle dominant, right? That's a lot of muscle there. And it doesn't really test what your knee joint is then going to be able to handle, specifically when you get into these sport specific positions. where your knee goes over your toe. And that's what we really know. Okay, if we get those positions strong at the same time as building that strength on the ice kinetic machine, okay, cool. You have that muscle strength, you have that force output, amazing, and the eccentric strength as well. Now we need the connective tissue to be at the same level, if not beyond, right? And we're saying dominating because we want to like have that even beyond, right? Not just have it at the same level.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not saying the leg extensions are bad. My love of leg extensions actually like picked up massively recently. But like my leg extension is now built on a foundation of being able to do the sissy squats, the hack squats, the stuff with the shin angle that's like parallel to the floor. And we have people that come to us 8 months post ACL surgery and they can do a lot of weight on leg extensions and their quads are big, but you try to get them to do a full squat and they're like bending over like a pooing dog. I didn't want to say the swear word there, but like they're literally like they're trying to go down, and because they can't use their knee joint, their hips are then like caving over and they're trying to like compensate, and it just looks awful, right? Whereas if you look at a healthy knee like me or Kadim's, we're able to put those knees out in like a hack squat and just go right down and just not worry about it, right? So that comes from the connective tissue. So yeah, like connective tissues are passive structures, like they don't produce force, like the muscles produce force, but they need to be healthy, and they are like stress is put on them, right? And when you put stress on something, it adapts. Like they adapt in the same way that muscles do. They don't get as big as muscles. It's going to take longer to adapt than muscles, but they do adapt, which is also a good point as well. Of like they take longer, so that's why we start working on them first, so that even if we're like 9 months down the line and we've worked on the connective tissue and our muscle's not quite there yet, we can make a lot of gain on the muscle in a shorter period of time than having to build our muscle for 9 months and then realizing, oh, I can't get into a deep squat, but like, my knee's still destroyed, and then having to work a little bit longer. Like you can still make quick gains depending on the training you do, but like the studies show that it does take longer for tendons, ligaments, cartilage, all this stuff in the knees to adapt because they get less blood flow than the muscles do.
Yep. 100%. And we want to have that foundation. Like you don't want to, start building a house on a crooked foundation. And then at some point you realize, oh, actually the foundation is not as stable. Like I need to go and do the foundation. Now, it's much, much harder, right? With your body, obviously it's possible. We do it for people, right? We do it, but we want to have you make the best out of these 9 months you have already, right? Not waste any time. And then specifically as well, knowing that you're not getting deceived by your muscles, okay? Because you can't really, you can feel strong, you have strong muscles, and you might even pass all the strength tests, right, that you're doing, but then you're still getting re-injured the first game back or like second game back, right? Or down the line, and then you're wondering why is that? And
Exactly.
again, it's a joint dominance really. That's that connective tissue that when you look at sports, right, like the jumping, decelerating, the forces there are 5 to 10x the forces you're going to be producing in the gym with a heavy squat or heavy deadlift or whatever you're doing, right? So how can we absorb those forces actually? Well, it is going to be a lot of connective tissue, right, that needs to be able to absorb those forces. And that's like if your connective tissues, for example, talking about patella tendons, right, are not healthy, those forces go through the connective tissue still, but the unhealthy part doesn't get loaded and starts degenerating more and more. And that's why we want to build up those healthy tissues first through the rehab, and then yeah, that's just one pillar, right? So I feel like it's time to go to the next pillar that we're looking at as well.
Yeah, one last thing to say on it is like in terms of what we're talking about here, another good way to think about it is like if muscle was just the defining factor of what like made an athlete or made someone that was able to be protected from injury and stuff like that, like bodybuilders would be the best athletes in the world, right? So they're not, because they don't like take that ability in their muscle and then change to the connective tissue and then also adapt that to the sport. So yeah, first pillar, joint dominance. We can put the knee, the ankle, the hip in positions which strengthen the connective tissue more, and we want to build that first, and then the muscle on top. So that's our first pillar, makes us different. And I was never told that through any of my physios or anything like that when I was younger. I was just told trying to build the muscle, but then my knee hurt, and then I couldn't activate the muscle, and then they were just like, do more muscle, and I was like, I can't because my knee hurts, and then they never adjust the knee, and they got worse and worse. So mobility is the second. And our definition of mobility is a little different to most people's mobility. Like when I first started thinking about it, it's like, oh, mobility, yeah, it's just like you understand to a certain extent as of it's like the positions you can get in, but like most people treat mobility as like a warm up or some kind of stretch at the end, or and then like strength is the main thing. But we see mobility as actually strength through that length. So Kadeem's the mobility man, so we'll let him talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah, strength through length, right? That's really the secret, and that there is no like magic pill that I've used to get this mobile. It's it's really that, right? Strength through length, loading those tissues in those longer positions, right? And having your body feel strong and confident there, okay? And then letting it adapt over time. That's really the sequence we're using here as well, because when it comes to rehabs, right? Sometimes you're gonna be limited, let's say in your ankle joint, and if you're not getting that limitation away, then you're not gonna be able to build your knee ability to a certain level. So we need to unlock these joints, all the different joints, the ankles, the knees, the hips as well, to even be able to get to these other levels that we're looking at, right? To these extreme levels. If we're still limited within our ankles or within our knees in terms of mobility, then we can never really get into that deep knee bend and actually get that strength there, right? That connective tissue dominance that we're talking about. So that's one thing. Initially, straight like and people are like, oh wow, the progress happens fast, right? If you do it in the right way, especially rehab, you can push harder as well. It is more difficult in season, but still, like, instead of passively stretching for, let's say, 30 seconds and then feeling tight again after 1 hour or 30 minutes, we spend more time in the gym actually loading those positions, and that's how it stays as well, right? I'm not someone that wants to stretch every day multiple hours. I want to keep the mobility, and it's easy for me to keep the mobility now by doing these exercises, going strength through length.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we look at something like a deep squat, which is a mobility exercise, and people will say like, "Oh, well, I don't want to kill myself in the season," or stuff like this. But they're happy to sit in a chair for 12 hours a day. Like it's just positions at the end of the day. Like you're shortening yourself, and you're going to make yourself more injury prone by sitting in a chair 12 hours a day instead of sitting in something like a deep squat. Obviously, build yourself up to the point where you can do it, but it's just positions. It's like restoring a full range of motion, which if you look at someone like Kadeem from Senegal, his granddad is sitting in the D squat at 90 years old, right? So they don't have access to our modern furniture. Again, modern furniture is not bad, sitting on a chair right now. But to balance that out, the thing is that strength component of like flexibility without strength causes issues like it's hypermobility. Like if you don't have the strength in that end range of motion, but you're really, really flexible, a lot of stuff can go bad. If you have strength without flexibility, again, you get really stiff, you get really strong, and then if you go into a position which your body can't usually handle, snap city, right? Like in football, like you're gonna get snapped at some point, especially if you're like a winger or something. Like Neymar's first ankle injury, he landed on someone's thing wrong and his ankle rolled. But why don't we strengthen our ankles in that actual position, and then okay, cool, my ankle can go in that position and not hurt. Like we don't want to put it in that position, but then if we do get into that position, okay, cool. Like we're already used to that range of motion, so it's not going to hurt us as much as it would.
Yeah, it's really preparing us for, like, because people will say, you don't need that amount of mobility, right? You don't need to be able to kick over your head, or you don't need to be able to go into a pancake, right? You're not getting into that position when playing. But what we want to make sure is really that we're as prepared as possible. We're not limiting ourselves, right? If we can get more stronger through more length, then we know we're going to be more protected, right?
Yeah. What
It's
does
it's
need even mean? You don't need to eat healthy foods, but you'll die sooner.
yeah,
Like you don't need to do the strength through length, but you'll get injured sooner. Okay, like you don't do it then. Sure, like we'll see what happens.
yeah, and that's why our number one priority, obviously, with what we do, what our work is getting people not only back but also having them stay there and be able to maintain their body. And it is just a big thing, right? Like 90% of footballers you ask, like they're tight somewhere. That they say, okay, I feel tightness here, or tightness there, whatever. They had some sort of, even if it's just muscle issues, they can be really annoying as well, right? But if you build that strength through length, like you freaking rolling, right? Like your tissue is so much more prepared for the chaotic sport.
Exactly. Like a really simple example, which I saw ATG Science talk about, is like if your hamstring is tight, your knee won't be able to extend as much as it would have, or has to go through friction to be able to extend. That means the joint is going to have more resting tension on it, and it's just going to have more susceptibility to injury because it can't move as fluidly. Like your muscle tightness restricts your joint movement because the hamstrings flex the knee. And then when you extend, that's then going against the hamstring, right? So that's probably the easy example to look at. And when we're talking about something like a knee injury, one of our main things is restoring the full range of motion in and around that knee joint. So yeah, the hamstring flexibility is going to be a big one because then you can extend better, get that full knee extension, and actually control it there with stuff eventually like back extensions, Jefferson curls, all that kind of stuff. And then stuff like deep squats, actually able to go through your full knee range of motion and feel good. And then like the elite standards, me and Kadima smashing out reverse Nordics, right? We have that strength and length in our quads. And if anyone's tried a reverse Nordic, don't just like go out there and try it. But odds are like the first time you do it, there's no way on earth that you're going to be able to do it. And it was the same case with me. But the fact that I'm now doing that and my knees a lot healthier, like there's a correlation there.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you're building like specifically where you came from as well, right? Not even being able to walk 5 steps without pain, and now having these sort of abilities where it can almost look like, well, that knee joint is about to pop, but there's no way like it's popping
Yeah,
free. You're
my
freaking
knees
rolling,
are
like it feels amazing, right? But from the outside, people will see, okay, this looks crazy, and that's why when you do videos like that where you're doing a reverse Nordic as well, people feel, oh no, I can never get there, but nah, you can, you can really. It
and
is,
the TikTok comments go crazy saying you're going to get arthritis. Well, I had arthritis and now I don't. But yeah, like we'll see.
yeah, yeah, and
Little do they know.
it's all a progression, right? And that's why, like, we're taking our time, work with people for 6 months. Like, it's not like that magic pill that we have, but we have this beautiful process, um, that allows us to say, okay, like, we're not addressing your medical condition here, right? But what we do is really take you take you from where you're at right now to where you want to be, which is playing football again. And yeah, we have a lost pillar there as well for.
Yeah, a word like I love to use for that recently is like movement positivity. Like that's what it's about. Like there's so much fear instilled into people that have pain or have an injury and they're told to rest and they're told to ice and they're told to they pretty much told that they have no control over it. Whereas we like to show that no, you want to move and you can be able to get to move no matter where you are. So and how you do that is start moving in a pain-free way. So it's promoting that like no, you have control over your life. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't. Like you're not just some fragile man with like knee pain that can't do anything. You're a human being and there's principles that happen and it's all about movement. So then third pillar is then faster forces. You'll hear us talk about plyometric ability, you'll hear us talk about baller ability, like anything that's faster is what we like to include in this third thing. Because we're building tissue tolerance from slow to fast. We're getting that strength, we're getting that mobility, and that's really going to increase our tissue tolerance. But then if we go from that and then we just go into intense elite sport and play 90 minutes of football, it's completely different force. Yeah, we're going to have more tolerance to it, so we are going to be better off from building the strength and mobility. But if we don't build that up in the same way that we build the strength and mobility, like things are still gonna go wrong. So it's building up that plyometric ability in like a strategic way. It's building up the ability to start kicking the football. Like that is faster force. That's an instantaneous force when you kick that football. Like the leg extension is strength and it's slow and it's good. And that will build like the tissue quality, it'll build your muscles bigger, build your connective tissue bigger. But you'll find that when you go and kick the football or even play for like 20 minutes, you'll feel soreness that you haven't felt in the gym. And it's like, oh, okay, because that's different. So that's the last pillar of like, okay, they start to introduce the faster forces.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where we combine it all, because at that point, like, we're really as balanced as possible, and your human body is then naturally able to use, let's say you do a lateral jump, right? You're not going to be just compensating with your hips, because you now build up the tolerance, and then you can build on those healthy habits, healthy movement habits, and starting to build from a low level, right? We have no rush, build up to higher levels, but without like compensations or these unhealthy habits that you could build up if you go into it too quickly, right? Or if you still have these compensations or imbalances. And I feel like with the baller ability, specifically footballers, right? They have a preferred foot. They have like I literally know I never used to jump off my right leg, right? So that's something, when you're injured, when you got that injury, that's something to really focus on now, especially when returning, right? Getting that impact on both sides, because it might not seem as important, right? Okay, I just need my right leg to be healthy again. And let's say your right leg was injured, but we know that if you're imbalanced from side to side, specifically when it comes to plyometrics as well, and being able to absorb forces and produce forces, you're so much more likely to either, okay, do that side again, or now do the other side. And yeah, single leg, lateral jumps, that kind of stuff, where you're not just jumping onto a box and not having to absorb the forces, but rather getting to elite standards, right? Like, first time I've done the single leg bounce, right? Triple bounce. Like, I felt like I wasn't coming off the floor, right? And no amount of like strength training will directly get you flying there, but it can prepare you so that you can then build up healthily from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And this is what makes people athletes. Again, when you think about like what an athlete is, it's the expression of being able to move, sprint, run, jump, like do all of this kind of stuff. The main thing, like you say, that stops people from being able to do that is not how much force they can put into the ground, but how much force that they can absorb from what they do. So when we look at this side of stuff, the first thing that we're going to reintroduce is more deceleration, I believe, than it is going to be the acceleration stuff. So within this whole period, we're already doing the sled, right? So the sled's probably the safest way that you can start getting these faster forces. Yeah, it is going to be a little bit of a longer ground contact time, and it's going to help with acceleration as well. But if you look at a backwards sled, that's literally the opposite position of what deceleration is. So if we're doing that already, like we're going to have a much better time going into the other stuff. But then, yeah, you look at quicker ground contact times, and we can take really fast, really like light calf jumps all the way to extreme stuff as well. Like you say, like single leg bounce, right? So yeah, we want to build the acceleration, we want to build the elasticity. But if you look at football in specific, the thing that they're going to be doing the most is decelerating, and the best players in the world are the best at decelerating. Messi, it was said that he didn't train amazing in terms of like strength training and stuff. He would just go out and play some basketball here and there. But that's probably one of the reasons he was great, because then if you look at when he gets into a game and he gets into these positions, he doesn't have all that built up stiffness or whatever from the strength training that they're doing, so he can express himself fully. And then that's adaptation. Like he has VMOs the size of the bowling ball, and that's because he goes so near overturn. His deceleration is insane, so he's adapted to that really well. But most people will develop imbalances and then start to get injuries, and things start to go wrong if they don't do the right training with the right volume as well as that.
Yeah, and really progress it. Like, there's no point for us to even just aim to be like at where you were before, or like, okay, now I can decelerate again like I did before, I can cut again. No, we really want to get beyond that. Okay. And really want to make sure that like you feel better than before, right? Like, there's like
Like
what.
my Friday sessions now, like my first move, obviously I warm up and stuff, but it's jumping off the goal, like depth jumps off the goal. Like that force isn't gonna, like that's way more than what I can jump height wise, right? So if I can absorb that much force through my knees, my hips, my ankles, my feet, I was doing it barefoot as well. Like when I go onto the pitch, I'm not going to be worried about cutting, like maybe jumping and landing. Like I'm not going to be worried about that because I can go even higher. But obviously, it took me a long time to be able to build to that. So you can start from a 1 inch depth drop. Amazing. You can absorb that now. Like 2 inch. Okay, 3 inch. Okay, 2 up, 1 down depth jumps where you're absorbing your own force that you can produce. Okay, amazing. We're used to that. So, I mean, there's so much to talk about in this. The main thing, because we're talking about like what makes us different to like traditional routes. The main thing that I think is the biggest difference, and a lot of top physios talk about this as well, is that one of the biggest standards for like ACL rehab, for example, is like a triple hop test. But in plyos, people can really easily compensate with their hips and not take anything in their knees and then get a really, really good score on something where they're trying to go far, like the bounds or triple hop test or whatever, and not actually use their knee. So this is what we're talking about in terms of the deceleration, like what actually makes us different. Obviously, we do everything else because that's in the traditional paradigm anyway, but the stuff that's really like, okay, this is why we're getting people to return without any injuries. This is why is that deceleration ability, and it is that ability to absorb forces and actually use them through the knee. Like we look at your people sending videos of them doing the plyos, and we'll look at their hip angle compared to the knee angle and be like, well, yeah, you're completely like, and side to side as well. Well, on this side, look at your knee angle, and then this side, look at this. Okay, and then where is that coming from? Is that the quad? Is that the knee? Like, is that not confidence in your brain? Is it just getting used to the movement? So this scale that back to the level that you can handle it through your knee, and then build that up, right?
Yeah, yeah, and exact ankles as well. Ankles is also a big one. And when it comes to these like compensations, like it's not a bad thing in the sense of okay, your body is finding a way in that more controlled environment where you know okay now all you have to do is a triple hop test, so it's a more safe environment. Okay, cool, you can get that done. But then, like football, again, it is completely different. You're not going to be able to think, okay, I will do these three jumps now, or like run and then cut exactly there. No, maybe you think you're going to cut, but then you're not, and like oh, boom, it's like that quick, instantaneous change, and that's not stuff you can think about, and that's also not where your body might be quick enough to hinge your hips back, and you might be fully on your knees there, right? Without a lot of hips involved, a lot of ankle, a lot of knees, and that's where boom, we're sad, we're crying, and we
Yeah.
don't want that to happen.
Cool. Cool. This ends us off. I think that's a good point to end. So overall, it was rebuilding a joint dominant athlete. They are the best athletes and the most protected athletes. The best thing you can do is make your body healthy and stay in sport for the longest time, and you'll have the best career. Second is the mobility. Again, adds to that, but it explores, okay, how can we increase range of motion while having control and strength through that range of motion? And then the third thing is then that faster forces, deceleration ability, well, acceleration, deceleration, elasticity. We want it all. Right.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's it. Love it. Next week, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we should go through the next week the three main pillars of difference in terms of the level of support that we actually give inside Bulletproof Ballers and what I was missing. Because like we've built this based off what we were missing when we were younger. So I had 4 different videos and none of it worked, right? So there are good videos. We're not dogging on physios. I'm talking about my personal experience, and my physios personally weren't good enough, right? So we have built it in a way that is allowed us to give to the people that come in what we would have wanted when we were younger. So we'll talk about that next time.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Like it's we know it's just personal experiences, but we know so many more people are going through the
exactly.
same things, right? So we're looking forward to share that.
Amazing. Appreciate everyone watching. Let's make Bulletproof again.
Let's freaking make balls.
Bye bye.